Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome to a Duet Night Abyss Randy guide, or a very early one. Now, I have played around with this character a tiny bit, and there are two things that seem to have caught my attention. One is that his kit is interesting, but it doesn't really seem too valuable just yet because he seems like a support that increases defense, and I don't really. There's currently no defense scaling characters, so in that aspect, I think he's going to be better on later on. And then the second thing is that I think he might be slightly bugged, or at least not where he's supposed to be, because both of his abilities, both of his main abilities, kind of don't really fully do what they're supposed to, or yeah, do a bad job at it. So we'll fly into it, and then we'll see from there. So Randy is a defense scaling character. So before I get into everything, most of the abilities that he has and most of the value that he gets is from having a lot of defense on. So let's get into it. He has a skill and an ultimate, like most characters. And your skill is basically a barrier that you deploy. You press a button, you sit down on a chair, and you deploy a barrier that is supposed to block incoming damage from the angle that you put it at. So everything that is in front of you will be avoided. Everything that is behind you will still do damage to you. This barrier will run out when it has reached a specific threshold of damage that it can take. It says something here, yeah, and expires once it has absorbed the damage equivalent to 100% of Randy's max HP, but my max HP is 1400, and if I press it, the shield only has 784. So not entirely sure if this is like just a visual bug or maybe the value of this is just supposed to be different, but it's a bit weird in that aspect. This passive, like technically, or sorry, this skill technically will break when you take 100% of the shield damage. But if you get your second passive, basically whenever you reach 30% of the max health that the shield has, it will just make a new one, but it will consume sanity for it. Now, having your skill up and just using it is already going to cost you sanity. And what's quite cool is that it's based both on skill efficiency and skill duration. So both of these stats could decrease the cost of this, which is kind of nice. Maybe quickly gonna add as well, it does defense, but the defense on this character, as far as I can tell, is very negligible. So you don't really want to be looking, sorry, the skill damage. You basically don't want to be focusing on skill damage. He is a support in all aspects. Now it could be that a couple months from now, someone figures out like an insanely, full damage Randy type build, but I don't really believe that's going to be how he is played. So yeah, this is something that is affected by skill efficiency and skill duration, and your sanity cost on recasting the shield is also based on skill efficiency. Now, I'm going to show you what the shield looks like, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when it breaks. So to do so, I need to find an enemy that has, like, I guess level 60 is fine. An enemy that is quite strong, I'm going to put my shield down. He also gets knocked back by it a tiny bit. And then basically I want you to look at this bar down here. He's going to shoot it. He's supposed to be highly skilled at ranged attacks. But it doesn't seem that way. Okay, we're actually going to just kill him off and spawn a couple of them, I guess. This one, I'll do this, spawn, and put our shield down here like this. And then we should be taking more damage. So when this roughly reaches 30% of whatever value it was at the start, you'll see that it just jumps all the way back up, and we will get a new shield. And when we get a new shield, it also gives the animation and the damage, not the animation, sorry, but the damage for casting a new one. So as you'll see in just a second, boom, they get knocked back, and my shield is back to full health. So you might be thinking, oh, this is kind of cool. I can have a combat partner, play Randy, I play someone else, and I basically get a shield. Well, there's a couple of intricacies to this, and when I say intricacies, I mean it just doesn't work the way you want it to. Because, first of all, the AI in this game is quite awful, and I do hope they make some changes to it, as you cannot really command your AI to do a specific thing. So, for all of you who've been playing Psyche, you may have noticed that if you're running Daphne or Truffle, they just don't heal you when you kind of need healing. Same thing here. You're running Randy. He's not going to be able to use a skill whenever you need it. He'll just randomly do it. So that's one bad thing. Bad thing number two is I'm going to grab this enemy. I'm gonna go further away. I'm gonna press my shield. Oh, he gets knocked back. You might think, oh, that's, you know, it's cool, crowd control, and I'm safe from damage, but yeah, he's just doing damage. Now, he's doing damage to my ultra shields, which I still have, but you can see the value here decreasing. He's not even hitting the shield at this point because he's just in front of me. You might think it's just this enemy, but I've also tested this on at least 2 bosses, and practically every boss will just approach you, get into your shield range, and they will do damage through your shield. Some bosses even, yeah, like right there, his attack was so big that it did damage to my shield, like to my wide shields here, but it also did damage to the passive shield. So yeah, in that aspect, it is kind of dog water, but yeah. The next part of his kit, arguably could be better, but seems to be worse because I can't really figure out if it's bugged or if I'm just unable to read. But let's just get into it first. When using your ultimate, you basically throw down it kind of looks like a spear into the ground, and every enemy near that has a shield will take shield damage based on your total defense. So I'm going to show you some stuff now in just a second. Keep in mind that I don't have my Randy build, so it kind of makes sense that the shield isn't melting. The higher your defense, the more shield damage you will do. But yeah, let me show you real quick what it looks like. So I'm going to grab an enemy at level 60. We'll make him inactive for now, and we're going to use our ult. You can also aim where it goes, by the way. You have like a tiny second, like a couple seconds to change where it goes. But yeah, when the shield is down, it'll periodically do damage, and you see these damage numbers kind of look a bit different. It's doing damage to a shield. Now again, I'm level 50, this guy's level 60. I have nothing built, so it kind of makes sense that it doesn't scale. Let's do the same thing, but let's put him down at level like 30 maybe. So the scaling's a bit better in our favor. Boom. And you saw it just insta broke his shield. Now, the next part of the kit should be... Actually, let me kill him off to show you what it looks like. So, technically speaking, when an enemy has run out of shield, the spear is supposed to paralyze them. Right? So I'll go here. For targets with 0 shield, impact paralyzes them. Now, I've noticed that I can put enemies down. I will take, for example, this one, which should chase me. Does it? No, because I made him inactive. Oops, let me do that again. I guess we can put this one. So he should chase me. I'm going to ult him. Did he just... Yeah, he got CC'd by it. Okay. Okay, well, I'm glad I'm learning about this now. I just figured it out. Okay. Very unprofessional, but I figured out what I was doing wrong earlier. So it turns out I was reading this wrong. So when you use this, am I reading it wrong? It says for targets with 0 shield paralyzes them. I assumed this meant that enemies that used to have a shield that you broke would be paralyzed, which didn't work. But in this case, it does, which is kind of cool. Okay, you know what? Then I guess he's not entirely bugged. So the point of this is when you have a bunch of trash ads, like, I don't know, let's say you've got like... 20 is maybe a bit much. You got like 8 of them. You can press your ult, and if they get hit by the electricity, it's going to stun them in the region. Okay, that's kind of cool. Okay, I'll show you I'll show you now what my issue was before and why I kind of figured it was bugged. But I'm glad I'm glad I randomly tried something else. So we're gonna get like level 40 of this guy. We'll make him active. Not entirely sure why he spawned over there, but we're gonna break his shield. And I assumed when the shield was broken, he would be paralyzed. But it seems that that is not the case. Now, what I also want to quickly try is I'm going to put both of these enemies in here. I'll put one of these. I'll put one of these, and we're going to put them at level 50. Don't you guys love when learning is happening? We'll put them over there. And we're going to press our ults. And I'm assuming that one of them will be crowd controlled, and one of them... Yeah. So one of them is losing shield, and one of them is being crowd controlled. So it does have double value in that sense. Okay. That's pretty cool to know. So yeah, basically it works on enemies that don't have shields, and on enemies that do have shields, it is going to drain those shields a bit quicker. Or it's going to do damage to the shields, which is nice. Quick thing to keep in mind, bosses technically don't have shields, but they're not going to be paralyzed by it. The bar that bosses have is stance, so it's a bit different than this. So yeah, that's basically his kit. So you've got your skill, which is a shield, which only really works in front of you when you have things shooting at you. So in that sense, it's pretty good. You can redeploy it naturally when it gets low with your passive. And then you've got your ultimate, which is crowd control on enemies without shield and shield shred on enemies with shield. You can get a bit of extra skill duration and a bit of extra defense off of your passives. And then you can get extra defense off of your final passive right here. But again, currently there's no characters that scale off of defense enough for this to really be valuable on. In terms of weapons, as far as I can tell, there's not really a good ranged weapon on him, which makes sense because you're going to be using him as a combat partner, and as a combat partner, you want him to only really have one weapon on, or you're only going to have him run one weapon. And the weapon you would run on him, if you really wanted to invest into him, is going to be the Ingenious Tactics. It gives you defense. Hello? It gives you defense, which is a stat that you kind of want to be running. And when dealing damage with this weapon's trigger bonus effect, there's a 25% chance to decrease the target's shield by 350% of the user's defense. So if you're off-fielding him, you kind of hope that when he's using this weapon that he's going to be smacking the enemies a bit with his weapon to be able to trigger this. So obviously the percentages are quite low here because with the trigger bonus, it currently only has 33% trigger probability. And then when it triggers, there's another 25% chance of that happening. But you could also, or you could obviously run a bunch of trigger probability on this weapon to increase those chances. As for Genimons, I would just go for the one that gives you the sanity and the Ultra Shields if you're using them on field, but you're probably not going to be using them on field, so the Genimons don't really matter. And then let's also look at Demon Wedges real quick. Now, I'm going to leave this mode real quick. I've put a couple of Demon Wedges on that could be valuable on him because of the stats that they give, but I don't have a full build just yet. Again, before I jump into this, to reiterate, we need defense, which is nice, and ideally we want skill duration and skill efficiency. Skill range is okay. I guess it's nice to have to get some more crowd control, so this is probably also a decent stat, but skill damage, we just don't really want to be looking at because we're not focused around doing damage. Obviously, if all of the other stats are already really high, you could look at getting some more skill damage, but it's not the main priority of your of what you should be going for. So the first thing that you want to run, and it kind of depends on what your other support is running, is you want to run either Prime Serenity, which is going to give your team extra sanity regeneration, or, and actually don't have it, you want to be running level 55, you want to be running Typhus Prime Uplift, which is going to increase the damage of your teammates. One of the supports runs Uplift, one of the supports runs Serenity, basically. So it kind of just depends on who your other support is. Yes, one of the Electro ones that seems to be pretty good on him is your Eternity, because it gives you defense, which is nice for absorbing more, for doing more damage, and I guess not absorbing more, but for doing more damage, and also giving more Ultra Shields, and also doing more damage to the enemy shields. So defense is a stat that you want to chase as much as possible. And the good thing about Standfast Eternity is that you can just run a bunch of these and stack them all together. You could just run a bunch of defense. If you don't have that, you can also just run Standfast, which gives you defense. And I've put some Max Sanity mod on here because I feel like having it, like if there's a lot of damage going on, you do want to, or I guess you want your summon to be able to have their stuff up as much as possible. I'm not going to tell you this is the best setup because I don't know what the best setup is, but from what I understand of this character is that you basically just want as much defense as possible, and then you can get these other stats. Like, for example, Max Sanity or Skill Duration or Skill Efficiency on the side. And that's basically it for Randy. I am very curious to know or to see a future character being released, and my prediction and what I kind of assume is that at some point a character will be released that is defense scaling, that is going to just be really strong, and in that case you can run Randy on the side. But until that point, he's kind of just a goofy character that you can maybe invest a whole bunch into him to make him do a tiny bit. We'll see. Yeah, that's it. Any questions, make sure to leave them below. Anything else you want to mention, leave a comment, and I thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.